Right. Good afternoon. So very pleased to be here in Toowoomba, and it's wonderful to meet with the local police. I'm also joined by my Assistant Minister. Had the opportunity to meet with the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, some other councillors today as well. I thank them very much for their time. And also this morning we had back-to-back meetings, speaking directly with people who have been impacted with crime, and acknowledging that we are working collaboratively together in terms of getting the best outcome. As you know, we have introduced a suite of measures into the Parliament. They're out now for consultation and they'll be debated at the next session of Parliament. Some very good ideas as well being raised by people. We're going to take those back as well. And I really heard the heartfelt views, especially of victims of crime. And I do understand that there are people who have gone through experiences that no one would like to go through. And we need to offer more support. We've got that initial package of $9 million there that we announced, but we do need to make sure that we are following up on issues with people who are impacted with crime. So look, happy to take some questions, and you will see behind me here the mobile police beat that's been very visible out in the community. Also too, as part of our package, you're going to see more high visibility police patrols as well. So that's the extra funding we've given police, and of course the Assistant Commissioner and the Superintendent are here to also answer any questions. So happy to take some questions.
Premier, can I ask why there was an element of secrecy to today's trip?
No, there's not.
Well,
that's why you're here.
Well, Premier, you've got to agree that there was...
No, there wasn't.
There was a late press release put out and we didn't...
No, your office was notified early this morning.
What's the evidence to support that breach of bail is successful in combating youth crime?
Yep, well that's been introduced. We are going to debate that at the next session of Parliament, and it works with adults, and it's going to be introduced for juveniles.
Is there research to support that though? Can you point to
Well, it works for the adults.
The
Yeah.
government, as recently as last week, Leanne Leonard said that it wasn't going to be part of your measures, and then come Monday it is. What changed over the weekend?
We listened to the community, and as I said, we've introduced it. It's now out for public consultation.
Premier, there was a lot of people very angry you didn't attend last week's Youth Crime Forum. Where were you last Wednesday?
Working on the youth justice reforms that we introduced into Parliament, also finalising the agreement with the Prime Minister, and also working on treaty.
On breach of bail, have you
raised the opposition claims?
Oh, sorry, might just finish. I also said that I'd come in the near future. I've come at the first opportunity after those laws were introduced into the Parliament, and I've been here since this morning.
Premier, are you police recruitment rates? The opposition claims it's going to take 32 years to put the promised extra 1,450 pairs of boots on the ground. Are you doing any extra efforts in terms of that recruitment process?
Yeah, and that's not true. That's actually not true what they're saying, and we are very keen to expand our recruitment. There's a recruitment campaign about to go out, and of course you would have heard from the Police Commissioner and the Police Minister yesterday, a very active recruitment campaign, working also to get overseas officers here as well.
Are you also announcing a trial of GPS trackers for kids in Toowoomba? Is that happening?
That's part of the suite of measures that were introduced, and that's in the legislation.
Was it constructive this morning, Premier, when you got to meet with people
Very,
in Toowoomba?
very good. Honestly, it was just hearing from people. I also wanted them to, be able to tell me in their own words. And look, they speak on behalf of a whole range of people as well. And it was very moving. Yeah.
See, you look on those Facebook pages here, Premier, particularly, and
yeah.
I monitor them quite regularly, and you see the amount of stolen cars, the amount of houses broken into. It must be concerning on the
Yeah, and that came very clearly through about the stolen cars, and that's the legislation is aimed at that as well, increasing those penalties, and it's a big issue. Like I said, this legislation is targeting at those repeat offenders. This is absolutely critical, and I have said previously 83% of the young people who come into contact with the juvenile criminal justice system don't go on to re-offend. But what I heard very clearly today from victims is they want to be able to provide more information to the court, and they would like to see more assistance, especially when it comes to the trauma that they have experienced. So I'm very pleased. It was an absolute, definitely worthwhile me hearing those one-on-one stories. And as you can appreciate, people can be more frank with me, more open and more honest in that sort of situation. So I'm very pleased I had the opportunity to sit down with them today.
Have you spoken
What do you think of the 3 mayors up north and their idea for a Ben Drinker register?
Look, I understand that they have written in to the Deputy Premier. The Deputy Premier will have a look at that. It's their proposal. They need to state very clearly how they would implement it. You know, and from an outsider looking into it, I think they may have trouble bringing it in, because it would mean tradies and families, mums and dads having to produce ID in those large cities to get alcohol. It would be very hard for them to administer that, I would think. But I'm happy. The Deputy Premier is happy to hear their proposals about how they would implement it and how it would work and how they're going to fund it.
The Human Rights Commissioner said he was alarmed by the overriding of the state's Human Rights Act to bring in breach of bail as an offence for kids. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, the legislation says that we can provide that statement to the Parliament, and that's exactly what we did.
Premier, do you think just on paper that the stuff from the mayors up north, does it look good on paper? Is it an idea that, you know, the government
I think you should go and put it to them. They should be telling you today how they're going to implement it and how it's going to work, because there are practicalities involved in, you know, you imagine a tradie going home after a hard day on a construction site, or, you know, building a house, whatever, and having to find his ID to get a 6-pack or to get a bowl of wine to take home to his wife. I mean, the mayors, it's their idea, they have to explain it to the community.
The Youth Justice Reforms Review was released in November. It noted that any expansion of electronic monitoring should be considered with great caution.
Yes.
And it talked about having to look at the evidence that will come out of the review of the trial. Where is that report, the report into the electronic monitoring?
Check with the Minister. My understanding is that report was put up, but I'll double check for you, Majura.
How many kids have been...
Yeah, but can I just say what the report did say is that they actually need a broader section of people to be involved in that trial. It has worked successfully in other states where there have been intensive monitoring and intensive supervision, and the small cohort of the trial, my understanding, did work. But I'd ask you to speak to the Minister. Excuse me, she's across those details.
What can be done to lift those
I'm asking that we get pretty extreme and creative with our strategies in dealing with this. Is something like a military boot camp for repeat offenders an option?
Well, the LNP tried boot camps, and the Auditor General came out and said that it was a failure. I think we need to have a lot more, and we've put more money into the supports for our non-government organisations. And today I got to hear how some of those organisations are working very closely. Look, I was just having a coffee previously. I ran into someone from the Child Safety Office as well. People have ideas, and I want to hear their ideas, because some of these young people come from very traumatised backgrounds. That's why a therapeutic detention centre is looking at those issues. But we also need to connect with on-country programs, and we also need to make sure that we have intensive bail support as well.
Premier, is there any update on the interim measures to increase capacity at detention centres and remove them from watch houses while the 2 facilities are being built?
Yep, the numbers in the watch houses, my understanding is, are coming down. And of course, there is a lot of work happening led by the Deputy Premier in relation to infrastructure.
Coming down by how much?
I don't have those figures on me, but they have come down in the last couple of weeks.
Minister Lennard mentioned, I guess, that she didn't really talk us through what those interim measures would be. What are the interim measures? Yeah,
well, the Deputy Premier is working on those issues. We've already said that we will be building 2 new detention centres. There are smaller detention centres and the government will update the public on that when we are ready.
When did Labor actually propose to put breach of bail laws forward? Like, who proposed it?
Sorry? The community's been talking about that for a long time.
But I guess the cabinet would have had to work through it. How long were you guys working through it?
No, we've been listening to the community. That's exactly what we've done, and now they're out there for community consultation.
Do you think it's reasonable people only had a few days to make submissions on the new youth justice reforms? Do you think that's reasonable?
Well, we also elect members of parliament. Members of parliament have now gone back to their communities. They can hear what the communities have to say. And I would like to see bipartisan support on these laws we've introduced.
Premier, can I just ask on a political front? The local member, obviously, David Janetsky, has been quite critical with you today, or the LNP has, saying that your diary suggests this is only the second official visit to Toowoomba in the last 12 months, last being with Wellcam. How would you respond to those?
Look, Queensland's a big state. I've said that time and time again. 2.5 times the size of Texas. I cannot be everywhere. That's why we have a cabinet. Cabinet ministers have regularly come here to Toowoomba. I have come here to Toowoomba. The last time I was here was last September, and we also announced a wind farm, and I purposefully dropped in here on the way back to Brisbane.
Premier, the 2021 youth justice reforms included a review about a year later. Then the report was then released much later on. But can we expect to see a review of the measures that you want?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Timely publication of that review.
And the KPIs that were mentioned, yes, we're going to publish those as well.
The leaks about the police recruitment numbers are pretty damning. Are you disappointed that it's come from internally?
Well, they're not true, because we have increased police numbers, and there's active measures afoot to recruit even more police across our state.
If they've come from internally, how are they incorrect?
Well, you heard the Commissioner yesterday say they are incorrect. Okay?
Premier, just with the people you got to meet with this morning, victims, were their stories touching, and how did you sort of get in touch?
Very emotional, very emotional. Heartbreaking.
They've been calling for action for over a year now. How come it's taken this long to have this amount of movement in the last 2 weeks?
I think what are you talking generally here in Toowoomba?
Yeah, and across the state. Like, youth crime's hardly a new issue.
Okay, well, I spoke to the Mayor, and the Mayor said that when these issues started to arise a year ago, he had conversations with Minister Mark Ryan, and the police numbers were increased here in Toowoomba. But what we have seen is an escalation, and that is why these suite of measures are giving more money for police to actually be able to do their job and be out there. People want to see police more in their community. I was able to speak with people today saying, yes, they are seeing more police visible in their shopping centres. You can talk to the Assistant Commissioner in a moment if you want to. And also too, we need people, if they do see people acting suspiciously or are concerned, to contact police. Some people are putting things, I've been told, might be putting some things on Facebook, and they haven't been reported to police. So please let the police know if there are issues in your local community.
Will we be here today talking about this if Robert
Sorry?
was still alive?
Sorry?
Will we be here today talking about this if Robert Brown was still alive?
I think yes, because the statistics were increasing.
Sorry, Premier, just off topic. Rajwinder Singh, has there been an update? We've obviously got teams over there that wanted to put the question to you, and again, it must be relieving, relieving for the family, relieving for you too, to finally bring that person back to face the law.
I think the police have done an incredible job here, and to track down in India is absolutely phenomenal in such a large populated country. And I think their endeavours should absolutely, we should be thanking them for their endeavours.
It'd be complex, wouldn't it? You would imagine.
It would be extremely complex, the operation that's been put in place.
Experts have said a previous trial of GPS trackers targeted the wrong offenders, minor offenders, instead of those serious repeat offenders that you're talking about. How will you address that? Are you looking to fix it?
Well, it's up to the magistrates to make that order, not up for the government. So we will give the judiciary the powers, the laws to use as they see fit. But what these laws are doing is aimed at those serious repeat offenders.
Premier, one of the problems with the GPS trackers is that you kind of need mobile service to make that happen. So that means places like north of Townsville where it just kind of drops off. You can't have put a GPS tracker on a kid, and the child must also have a stable bail address. You know, two of those
that's
things
correct.
are massive limiting factors. How is expanding this program going to work?
Yeah, well, they're putting in place the resources that are needed to expand that trial.
But like these are trackers, I guess, designed for adults on children's legs. They speak.
They actually work in other states, and you know, 1 minute you're saying don't have the people in watch houses, then I'm guessing you're saying now you don't want them to have trackers. I mean, we've got to get the balance right, and the balance is that the judiciary makes those decisions. The government is giving the judiciary the laws of which they can then utilise. And previous Police Commissioner Bob Atkinson has endorsed their use.
So opinion is by the by, but like in the Northern Territory, you know, where they do have ankle trackers up there, they have a problem where children were breaching bail because the trackers ran out of batteries or because mobile service dropped out.
I'm quite sure they'll be looking at the service range of where they're implemented.
In terms of prevention, from everything that you've canvassed thus far, what is the major reason for the spike? Are we talking multiple mental and physical illnesses among the youth?
I think you might have to talk to the police about why there's a spike. That will probably be better for them to talk about it. But look, I'll put on the table one of the suggestions the Mayor put to me, which I think is a good idea as well, is to also have a youth foyer where we have support services here in Toowoomba, working with the young people, but also to being able to be involved in sport. I think that's a great proposal. So we're now going to work with the council about that youth foyer, and that's a positive initiative. Coming out of my visit here today, hearing directly from the Mayor and the Council.
There's been a lot of criticism of the Youth Justice Office and the way it operates and how caseworkers are not available when children are most at risk at night and on the weekends. Is there any moves to expand their operational hours?
I think our youth justice workers, our child safety workers, our frontline service workers, our police, they try very hard, and do not think for a moment that many of these people aren't also feeling the impacts as well. I just learnt that too, also speaking with people who work in the front line. So I think we all need to thank people who are trying to do their very best. They're trying to keep the community safe, but all of this is having a big impact on them as well.
Are the Queensland Police properly resourced to do the job?
Yes, we give them the vehicles they need. We're rolling out more of these mobile police beats, the money for recruitment. I think you'll find that our government has been very supportive of police in this state.
Premier, can you just confirm, are the trackers a measure to ease the capacity on?
No, it gives the it is a. If you go back and read that Atkinson report, it is another tool available to the judiciary.
What can you do to assist communities like Mount Isa that are seeing this influx of people come into the community because alcohol bans have been reinstated in the
Yep. Thank you, and thank you for that question. And we've acted very quickly. I spoke with the Mayor earlier this week. I sent a team of senior officials up to Mount Isa. They've been there all this week, working with the community. It is an issue, and I'm also in conversation with the Northern Territory Chief Minister as well. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Oh, thank you.